So hi everyone, thanks a lot for coming to our 5th Flutter workshop where we'll be implementing facial recognition using a Flutter app. We have Andrew from CISSA and Arnav from the DSC Club. So Andrew will be doing the live coding, and if you have any questions, you can just put them in the chat and Arnav will be answering them. If you want Andrew to answer them, you can ask Arnav to ask Andrew, and he'll be happy to answer them. So with that said, I'll be passing it on to Andrew.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I'll be looking at the chat as well. So yeah, I'll pay attention to the questions that come. Okay, awesome. So you might have seen the little demo that I sent to the Facebook group already. But basically today we'll be making an app for detecting whether people are wearing masks or not in your images. So, you know, it's a good way to be sure that your friends are acting sensibly when in their selfies or whatever. Yeah, so let's get started. I'll start sharing my screen. Great. And today's code is on my GitHub. So I've sent the link to the Facebook group as well. Actually, I might just send this to the chat right now so you guys also have access to it. Let me find the chat window. Awesome. Great. So yeah, just clone this code here and go ahead, and after you've cloned it, be sure to switch to the starter branch, which basically has a clean slate of all of the code. And I'm actually already on the starter branch. Just reset everything. Well, all right, great. Sorry, it was. Okay, awesome. So we have a nice clean slate here, and yeah, let's get started. So you might have seen this is how the app should look like after it's done, and it will have basically display the image in the center, and it will include a button for selecting the image, and we'll be making that first. All right, let me clear this out. And awesome. So for today's workshop, actually, yeah, let me introduce the technologies that we'll be using in this workshop. So first of all, we'll be using the image picker library, which is this really awesome library that allows us to select images from the user's phone. So you see here, this button opens up this great window for selecting images. This is all provided by the image picker library. And we'll also be using the HTTP library, which you may recognize from the Pokédex tutorials. And it basically allows us to make requests to URLs. And we'll be using that in the second half of the workshop. And third, we'll be using this, this Firebase machine learning library. So today's workshop is going to be more machine learning heavy than previous workshops. And we'll be using Firebase, which is this great technology that integrates very well with Flutter. And Firebase actually provides some machine learning capabilities. And we'll be using that to in our facial recognition system. And let me show you in action. So Firebase provides this machine learning model for detecting people's faces in images. And that'll be the first half of our app. Okay, I will be using that library. And the second part of this app would be to detect whether the person is wearing a mask in that image or not. And to do that, we'll be using the Google Cloud Platform. But I'll go into that later. Okay. So first of all, in our code, we'll just make a main function. This is the entry point of our app. And we'll just make a material app in here. So you would have been quite familiar with this from previous workshops. And brackets here. Okay, awesome. And for the title of our app, I'm going to just put down mask detection. And in the body of, was it child? Oops. Let me put this to the side. Awesome. So I think it is home. Sorry about that. Home. And this is just going to be our homepage widget. Let me define the homepage widget. So as you might be familiar with from previous workshops, everything is in Flutter is a widget. And we're going to be using a stateful widget for the home page. Yeah. And the reason being is that we'll need to keep track of, we need a state to store the image and also for the faces that we detect in that image. So we'll name it home page. And so actually, let me redo that. So what I just used to generate all of that code is this shortcut in Android Studio, which just generates all of the code that I need for me. Awesome. So we get a homepage widget and the homepage state. And in homepage state, there's the actual build function that would return the, I guess, the homepage. We'll be using the scaffold. We'll be using the scaffold widget to position everything in our homepage. And because we want everything to be in the center so it looks nice, we'll also be using the center widget. This body. Yeah, I think this should be body. And for now, I'm just going to display text, select, and image. Okay, and let's run this. Awesome. Okay, and so the next thing to do would be to add a button to the side for the user to select an image. And so doing that's pretty easy. Scaffold provides a floating action button argument, and we'll create a new floating action button. And for the child, we'll include an icon for adding a photo. Okay. And we also have add an onPress argument. And pass it a function called getImage and detect. Basically, this function will be called when the button is pressed, and we'll need to define this function as well. So Find that function. Great, and doesn't have to do anything for now. Let's hot reload everything. And you can see the button is here. Okay, so the next thing to do is to add functionality to this function so that it will open up a gallery for the user to select an image and also to basically detect the faces inside of that image. So first thing would be to use the image picker library. The image picker library is really neat because it's super simple to get an image from the user's phone. So we'll call image picker dot. I always forget this function. It's called pick image. Image, and pick image takes in a source which defines how the user will select the image, and we will specify the gallery for now. You can also use camera. Basically, as the name suggests, if you set source to camera, this button will open up the user's camera. But since the Android emulator that I'm using doesn't have access to my webcam, it's a little bit inconvenient to use. So I'm going to use the gallery for now. And the image picker's pick image function returns it returns the file of the image the user has selected. So I'll just store it here as image file. And so if you notice that pick image is an asynchronous function because it may take a very long time for the user to select an image. And basically, we want to wait for the user to finish picking an image before doing anything else. And to do that, we need to add a wait in front of the function. And to use a wait, we also need to make our function here asynchronous. Okay. And there's still an error. The type is wrong. All right. I think that might not be the right type. So I can just use the final keyword. So final keyword is great in that final and keywords like var, great in that they just infer the type instead of so you can either specify the type of the object, or you can just use one of these keywords. Okay, great. And hot reload, and let's see the yep, it works. Clicking it opens up this gallery for us to select an image. And if you're using a new Android emulator, you might notice that there are no images in this gallery, and it's because you actually need to download some from the internet. So what I did was I just searched for some pictures of people with masks and without masks. And yeah, just download a few, test. Oh, and try not to use images with a lot of people, because actually will slow down our app significantly later on. So just try to pick images with only a few faces. It could be a very interesting extension later on to alter the app so that I can handle images with more people in it. But for now, let's just keep it to like photos with only a few people. Okay. Off the app again. But as you can see, after the user has selected an image, it's not doing anything right now. So the next thing to do is to be able to display the image. in our homepage. Actually, never mind. Let me backtrack a bit. I want to demonstrate the machine learning capabilities of Flutter, of Firebase ML first. And for this part, you actually need to go ahead and make a Firebase project. And it might be a good time to introduce what Firebase is. So yeah, Firebase is this really awesome service. It basically provides backend as a service. And if you're not familiar with that term, what it means is that Firebase is a system that offers many different services like backend and user authentication that normally requires you to set up a server yourself. And it also offers machine learning capabilities as well. And all of this is in the cloud, so you don't have to worry about it. And it's really easy for the developer to use. And I'm just going to go to the documentation, go to Android. As you can see here, Firebase has great documentation for using in Android, iOS, for the web. Unfortunately, they don't have a section specifically for Flutter right now, but you can find many great resources online. Go to Android, and yeah, in the documentation to the left, you can see all of the services that they offer, which is a lot. And yeah, you go down to machine learning. We'll be using the machine learning kit, and in particular, this detect faces module that, if you scroll down, can identify the location of a person's face in the image. And that's going to be the first half of our app. Okay. And to use Firebase, so it's not just simply installing the library and using it. You actually have to set up a project for on the cloud, and to do that, you'll have to go to the Firebase website and log into your account, just your normal Google account would do, and go to the Firebase console. And the reason why you have to set up a Firebase project is that, let's say you're using Firebase backend and using the database system. That will require Firebase to set up a database in the cloud for you. And to do that, you have to go to this console and add services. So for us, we'll just use a machine learning kit, and it's pretty simple. I'm just going to go through creating a new project here. So first of all, just name a project, whatever. I'm going to say Flutter mask detection. Okay. Continue. You can enable Google Analytics or not. It's not too important. Oh, I might just disable this just so it doesn't bother me further. All right. Waiting. Let me check the questions to see if there are any issues. Yep, Arnav. Yeah, thanks, Arnav, for mentioning that if image picker is not working for you, you have to add it as a dependency in PubSpec. So I think if you use the code from my GitHub directly, it should include the image picker yeah, it has already, I've included the dependencies in the file for you. So hopefully not too much of an issue. Okay. Let me go back to see if my project is ready. Right. Yep, it is. Oh, wait. Oh. Did my screen sharing end? Yep.
Yeah, it kind of just stopped.
Okay. I think my internet's on screen sharing on my desktop separately here, and I think the internet just dropped out really quickly. Let me join back in and share my screen. I've been having internet issues every day around this time. So if there are any more dropouts, I apologize.
That's all right. Happens to me as well. Especially late at night for me, it happens.
Something about this time period for me is a lot of people like using the internet.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you should be able to see this. Okay, great. All right, back to the Firebase console. So I think I just created the Flutter mask detection project. I'm going to go in, and here I'm going to add an app to get started. So I'm going to select the Android icon here. I forgot to mention, but we'll be primarily developing for Android, but because Flutter is cross-platform, you can follow the same steps to create an iOS app as well. I'm going to go to Android. It's going to ask me for a package name. So this is a tricky part here, because this package name has to be unique to the Flutter project that you're making. So it actually has to match the project name inside your Android folder. I think it's in your Gradle file. Let me find it. It's in your app.build.gradle file. I'm not sure how familiar everyone with Android development, but a lot of your configurations are inside of this build.gradle file here. And inside, it also contains the application ID, which is just like a unique ID for your project. And and when you say actually release this app into the App Store, you may have to change this application ID so that it is unique. But for now, if you just got my code off the GitHub, the application ID should be flutter.face recognition. So here, I'm just going to put in flutter.face recognition. Every project on Firebase has to correspond to one Android app. And for the name, it's going to say my Flutter project, and I'm going to register that. Waiting. Okay, great. After it's finished, you'll have to download this Google services.json file. So this Google services.json file, I'll put it in downloads for now. Oh, maybe I shouldn't show this. So this Google services.json file contains the credentials to your Firebase project. And basically your Android app will need this to access Firebase services. And so you'll need to take this file and place it in your Android app folder. You can see here I've already placed the Google services.json file here from previous setup. But you have to go here and basically paste in your own Google services.json file. And I might give everyone a minute to do that, just in case they have some issue with Firebase. And in the meantime, feel free to ask any questions about anything so far. Okay, you see that there's a message from Dindy that they're new to Flutter. So yes, is there anything that we can help with here? Right. So you want to use get the links to the previous recording. So if I'm not wrong, Zach and Arnav, the links are, yeah, okay, Arnav's on it. It's on YouTube. Yeah, Google Developers Club have their own YouTube channel. You can find all of the videos. Okay, I assume that everyone has their Firebase project set up. And if you haven't yet, just call out. I'll continue. Okay. So after you've done that, we can actually use the Firebase library now. And what we'll do is that, well, okay. First of all, Firebase will need to take in the image, and Firebase actually has their own image object that they recognize. So I'm going to go here, Firebase Vision dot Firebase Vision image, I think, from file, and I'll pass in the file that we've just read from image pickup. And this will basically read the image file and store it in a format that the Firebase library recognizes. And next, I'm going to get the face recognition model from Firebase. And I'm going to store it as face detector. And Firebase Vision dot instance dot face detector. So this returns the face recognition system from Firebase, and we'll basically pass in the text. Let me see, what's the function called again? I forget this part as well. Yeah, process image. So we just need to pass in the image into our detector, and it will return, as you can see, it will return a list of faces from that image. And we can store it here. This.
Hey, Andrew. Sorry to interrupt. There was a quick question in the chat. Would you mind going over just once again the use of the JSON file, the services JSON file?
Yes. So so I won't show you what's actually in the JSON file, but if you open up the JSON file that you generated from your Firebase project, it includes credentials for accessing your basically Firebase cloud project. So because everything with Firebase is in the cloud, the Firebase library basically needs these credentials to access the services that you've enabled on it. And we've actually not had to enable any services, but if you had a database, if you're using a database, you have to go, you basically enable a database in your Firebase project, and your app would use this Google services.json file to access those services. And this Google services.json file will have to be placed inside of this folder on the Android app, and it should be placed here alongside build up. So did that answer your questions? Okay, great. So I'll continue. All right. So after we've, so if you notice, we actually use the await keyword again, because the process image function is also asynchronous, because it takes a long time for the Firebase face recognition system to find where all the faces are. But we can just wait for it to finish, because we don't really have anything else in this home page. So after we've gotten our list of faces, what we can do for now is just for testing purposes, we can loop through each of the faces, and we can print out the face. Now, each face object, I'm not sure if this will show me. If you look at the code, it contains an attribute called bounding box, which has the coordinates of the location of that face. So I'll refresh, and I'll select an image here. And as you can see, after I printed out bounding box, it returns 2 rectangles, because there are 2 faces in the image, and contains the positions of that rectangle inside of that image. Okay. So yeah, so I'll wait a second just to make sure that everyone's caught up to this part as well, because sometimes I know that there may be a bug with the Firebase Vision library, or if you didn't put in the Google services.json file correctly, this might not work. This part might not work. So I'll just wait a minute for everyone to catch up. All right, some nice discussions going on in the chat. Okay. So yeah, let me know if you're having any issues with this section. If not, I'll continue on. So the next thing to do will be to store the image that we've selected and the faces that we've detected inside of our homepage state. So I'm just going to create some variables. First one is going to be faces. So this face, faces. And the second one is going to be an image. So you might notice this image comes from the UI library, which is the .UI library. And this is to distinguish this image object from the image class defined by the Flutter library. So this is from the .UI library. And so, and let me create the image. So image here is actually different from the image file because it actually is an object that contains the data inside of that image, inside of that file. So we actually need to read the data from that file and store it in image. To do that, I'm gonna need to first decode that, basically read all the bytes from this image file, that's stored as the image bytes. Equals read as bytes. So this returns the bytes inside of that file, and I'm gonna decode those bytes with this function decode image from list, and I'll pass in the image bytes. And so this is an asynchronous function again, because yeah, this is quite a computationally intensive function. So again, we have to wait for it to finish. Great. And the last thing to do is to store the image and the faces in our state. To do that, we'll use the setState function. You may be quite familiar with this function already. What it does is that you'll pass in the function and setState will call it immediately. And inside of this function, you can update your class attributes. So in this case, it will be image and it will be faces. And after you've updated these attributes, Flutter will then check to see if the state of your widget has changed. And if it has changed, it will re-render everything. So yeah, we've set the image and faces nicely. And actually, later on, we'll also need the bytes from our image. So I'm going to store it as image bytes. All right, great. So next, what we'll do is that we'll display the image when it is ready. So inside of our scaffold, I'll use a tertiary expression, which is just shorthand for if statement. So I'm going to check to see if image is null. If it is null, that means we haven't selected an image yet. So prompt the user to select an image. But if it's not, I'm going to show the image. And because we'll need to both show the image in our homepage and also to draw boxes over where the faces are, we'll use the custom paint function, which allows us to draw basically arbitrary shapes over a canvas. And the custom paint widget takes in a painter, which we'll call face painter. And this is actually a class that we'll have to define ourselves, and it will have to be the of the custom painter class. So let's create it here, class face painter, custom painter. Great. And you can see it's complaining here because we'll need to implement some functions in custom painter. So Alt-Enter would show up this window to create the to basically generate the functions that we need to implement. And the first function is paint, which basically does all of the painting onto the canvas. So it will need to draw our image and also draw the bounding boxes around each face. And the next function, should repaint, is a little bit more complicated. Basically, this function tells Flutter whether we need to redraw our canvas or not. To save computation, typically the face painter doesn't repaint everything every time the widget refreshes. Instead, it will check this should repaint function to see if it has to repaint everything. And let's just start with this paint function. So we'll need to paint the image, which means that we actually have to pass the image in. So I'm going to create a class variable called image, and I'm also going to, we also need to store the list of faces as well. And we'll need to generate a constructor, which I think I forgot how to, what's a shorthand for doing it. Control Shift. Never mind. Oh, we just have to write it ourselves. Very great. And we'll pass in the image and the faces. Yeah. Okay, great. So now that we have the image in Face Painter, we can paint it. And how paint works is that Flutter passes in this canvas object, which we'll use to draw everything. And it also passes in size, which is the size of the canvas. And we should be careful not to draw outside of the size given to us. Now, drawing the image is quite simple. So we use canvas .draw. You can see there's a lot of, you can draw a lot of different shapes. There's also one for draw a rectangle, which we'll be using later. We can first just draw an image, and we'll pass in image. And if you have a look, the draw image also takes in the offset, which we'll just set as 0, which I think basically just puts the image onto the top left corner. Let me just double check that. Yeah. There's actually an easier way to do this, which is offset.0. Okay. And if you check the function again, we also need to pass in paint. So every function, every draw function in Canvas needs to take in paint, which specifies how the canvas should draw a shape. So it specifies the color, it specifies the style. And for drawing an image, we don't have to do anything fancy. We just pass in just a paint object, like it's a dummy paint object that doesn't have anything for now. And this should draw the image. And we can hot reload our app. By the way, if you want to hot reload, you can, this button here, you can just click this to hot reload. I'm using the shortcut, Control/hot reload. And okay, back to the app, we go here and select an image. And okay, so we run into a bit of an issue here because as you can see, the image isn't actually drawn properly inside of the home page. And instead, can you see that the top left corner is actually exactly in the center of the image? And the reason for that is that Canvas actually doesn't have a default size like a lot of the other widgets. And so by default, Canvas takes up no size inside of the page. And so it just gets put into the center. And basically, there's not enough space for the image to be drawn. And the way we get around that is that we actually have to wrap this custom paint widget around with another widget called size box. And let me format everything. So yeah, so everything's a little bit easier to see. So size box allows us to specify the size of its child component, which is this custom paint widget. So we can specify the width, which would be, and we can get the width from the width of the image. So image.width. And you can see the editor is complaining right now because I think size box is expecting double, but width is an integer. We'll just do a double. And also we can specify the height. But we're still not done because while size box specifies the size of the canvas, it's very it doesn't actually adjust the size of the canvas according to the size of other widgets around it. So it's not adaptive. As you can see here, the home screen might not actually be big enough for the image to fit the image. But Sizebox won't care about that, and it will just ask for the size, the full size of the image. And so we'll actually have to wrap Sizebox around with another widget called Fitted Box, which will basically scale Sizebox accordingly to the space given to it, so that it can fit properly. So let me again reformat of the code so it looks a bit nicer. One thing about Flutter is that with all of the widgets, you can get a lot of nested widgets. So being able to reformat when you want to is very helpful. Now, hot reload, and as you can see immediately, yep, you can see the image is positioned correctly inside of the page. So next, we'll draw the actual bounding boxes around each of the faces detected in the image. And to do that, we'll loop through each face. Now, paint function. And so remember that draw rect function. So we'll use that again. And to pass in, so remember the face actually has a bounding box attribute that contains a rectangle around the person's face. So we'll just pass that into draw rect directly. And it also pass in paint. Okay. So this time, I mean, I can show you what happens if we just pass in a paint with no special attributes you see what happened? And go hot reload, and as you can see, the color defaults black and actually just draws a filled-in rectangle around each person's face, and that's not great. It looks like we're trying to censor them, censor the images, and so we'll need to change the paint pass into this draw function. To do that, I'm going to specify special paint object, and I'll set paint.style to painting style.stroke, which means is that we don't want to fill in the whole rectangle. And we can set the stroke width. I'm just going to set it to 15 for now. And then lastly, while we're here, we can change the color of the paints, and we'll set it to blue. And hot reload. Maybe I need to restart the application. Oh wait, sorry. I need to change the paint object to actually pass into the draw function. Hot reload. And yeah, there we have it. So we have nice blue box instead of the filled-in rectangle we had before. And before we can leave this face painter class, we need to implement this should repaint function as well. Which, if you remember, tells Flutter whether they need to redraw the image or not. So let's say if we just return false, we can check what happens. If it's just false, we see that if we say provide another image, oh, never mind. Does it actually works? Okay, I actually don't know what's happening there. But should repaint. Okay. It might be that the widget's refreshing every time. But I'll just show you what yeah, I think the reason being is that when I click image picker and go back, it refreshes its widget. But what I'll also do is that I'll show you what I guess best practice, which is to check to see if the which is check to see the old instance of custom painter or face painter is different from your current instance of face painter. And we basically just need to check to see if the attributes are still the same. Return. You just check to see if image is different from the old instance of face painter. And then we also check to see if faces is different as well. So that's just best practice, and can leave this for now. Okay, and hot reload to make sure we haven't broken anything. And as you can see, yep, it's nicely drawing boxes around each person's face in the image. Now note this face recognition system is not perfect. So sometimes if the person's face is side on, in this case, yeah, I think it fails to recognize the face. But it works quite well for most. Okay, I might give everyone a minute here to ask some questions and catch up if you need to. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to put it in the chat. Okay, great. Seems like nobody has questions, so I'll continue. And okay, so the last part might be the most fun, and we have half an hour left. Okay, great. So the next part is to actually detect whether each person is wearing a mask or not in the image. And because the Firebase library provided to us doesn't allow us to train a custom model for detecting whether a person is wearing a face or not, and it is not an inbuilt feature. We actually have to set up our own machine learning model for detecting whether a person is wearing a mask or not. And to do that, I've actually used the Google Cloud Platform, which has this awesome service called AutoML that allows you to train sort of machine learning models like this very easily and deploy it on the web. And so that's what I've done. And I've set it up and provided the URL here. And if you and this URL, basically, if you send any image to it, it will return whether there's a mask in that image or not. And for time's sake, I was planning to run through how to set up that machine learning model on Google Cloud Platform. But for time's sake, I think I'll skip that for now. And if we have some extra time at the end, I'll quickly run through how to do that. For now, the URL you can use to send your image to is provided. Okay. So what we'll do is that in order to detect whether each person is wearing a mask or not, I'll create a new function called label face, and I just take in face object. And what this label face function does is that it will take so crop out the part of the image that contains that person's face, and it will send that to the address specified. And so the first thing is that we'll need to crop out that part of the image. And we can actually use this function that I've provided in this image tool file. So this crop face image, I'll take in the image as a list of bytes and the face that you want to crop out. So crop. And we'll pass in the image bytes and the face we want to crop out. Okay. And the next thing to do is that we'll need to encode this image. So you can't actually, it's actually not efficient to send just bytes across with HTTP request. And it's better to encode it as a string. And we'll be using base 64 encoding. In this base 64 image. And I think this is provided by the dot convert library. It has this really nice base 64 object. And we'll use it to encode our image. Encode. And the next thing to do is to pass this into our post request. So we'll use the HTTP library and we'll post it to the image specified. And the body will be And we also have to specify the header of our request as well. And in this case, it will be a JSON. So if you notice that here is the body's passed in as the JSON object. Okay. So I think it's application/JSON. I think this should be headers. All right. Reformat everything. Okay. Great. And we also need to store the response from this request. And so we need to again wait for the HTTP request. So we have to use the wait and async. Okay. And for now, we can just print out the response from the request to see what we get back. And we also need to call this label face function. And remember that we have to wait for the image bytes to be stored. Yeah, because we'll be using this image byte attribute. We have to wait until that image bytes var attribute is actually initialized. So we can only call label face after inside this set state function. So what I'll do is that in the set state function, I'll loop through each of the face object. And with each of the face object, I'll call the label face function. And let's reload and see what this gets us. So again, passing our image. And wait a second to see if this returns anything. Sometimes it takes a while. Either that or there's a problem with the address with the server setup. Let's hope not. It seems to be taking quite a long time. I might just quickly check to see if everything on the server side is working properly. Okay. So you can see there's an error from the address. Okay, so that's unfortunate. Seems like I need to go back to the server and to work something out there. I think before the workshop, I stopped and started the server again. I think there might have been an issue there. But not to worry too much. I think after this workshop, I'll fix it up So if you follow along the workshop here, at the end, you should see the appropriate result. But for now, I think we'll just continue and just treat it that it's working properly. Apologies for that. Okay, so when there is a when the address actually returns the result, proper result, what we'll need to do is that we'll have to use json.decode to decode the result that is sent back. So this request actually sends back a string. So we need to decode that string response. So you might remember this from the Pokédex tutorial. And since it's a JSON now, we can access the attributes. So I think it will include a payload attribute, and it'll be a list, and we just want the first one on that list. So that'll be the payload we care about. Okay, and so, all right. And that payload will include a display name attribute. So this display name attribute will be either with mask, if there is a mask inside of the image, or it would be without mask. And so for the sake of this tutorial, what I'll do is that, yeah, I'll just do everything, and then at the end, I'll hard code some value for this, so we can test the system. Okay. So since we have this, we actually do need to store the result of whether each face is wearing a mask or not. And so we'll need, we can use a map for this. So a map between face object and the Boolean. And we call this wearing mask. Okay. And in the label face function, what we can do is that we can we'll get the wearing mask map. And we will update the value for the mask in question. So we can set this to payload display name equals with mask. So if a request sent back with mask, it means that that face, that person's, that face is wearing a mask. And then last thing is to set our state. We'll set wearing mask to be, we'll update this dictionary. And since the address is not working, the server is not working properly right now, I'll just comment this part out and say hard code it so that we'll just say that they are not wearing a face in each of the instances. All right. So, okay, and now we want to display the fact of whether they're wearing a mask or not inside of that image. And so, first of all, we need to pass in our map into our face painter. And I'll just also accept that. Okay. And basically, to keep it simple, we'll change the color of this rectangle depending on whether they're wearing a mask or not. And so here we'll check. Well, there's three possibilities. The first possibility is that we haven't, in our map, we don't have a value for the face yet. So that means that we haven't gotten a response from a server yet as to whether there's a mask in that image or not. And if that's the case, we can just keep this bounding box to be blue. We'll first check to see if our map contains the face that we're drawing. And if it does not, we can keep the color, paint color to be blue. But if we do have an answer as to whether they're wearing a mask or not, we'll go down here and then check wearing a mask. And we'll pass in the face. And so if that's true, it means that they are wearing a mask. And we'll just change the color of our rectangle to be green. And if they are not wearing a mask, we'll change the color to red. Okay, great. And let's have a look at this in action. So I should just paint everything red because we just hard coded it so that nobody's wearing a mask. And quick look. Okay, so it does seem to be a problem here. I think it's because I need to initialize this variable wearing mask to just an empty map for now. I'll reload. Okay, and is everything working? Method for each was called in. All right. So what's happened here? Quick look. The method contains key was called on no. So it seems like the wearing mask object we're passing in is null, and so it's throwing an error. And just quickly check that nothing's wrong in face painter. Okay, so that's all good. And let's have a check here. Label face seems to be working properly. I'm not too sure as to what the problem is.
Near the top, I think face detector, is that supposed to be detector, like OR? Like where near the top, right there, like when it says final face detector. Oh no, that's okay.
Oh yeah, good catch.
All
wait.
right.
Wait. Face detector. Detector. Yep. I suspect this might just be because I haven't refreshed my application. Okay. So if I refresh everything, Okay, so there's no errors yet, but this is not turning red. Let me just quickly see the reason why. Map. Oh, right. So, remember how I said that the should repaint function is quite important, that we have to check whether the canvas needs to repaint itself. So when I added this map of whether the face is wearing a mask or not, I forgot to also check whether that's changed in should repaint. So we also need to check whether the map is different. Okay. Reformat and hot reload. Okay, great. Now let's have a look. Still not working. Okay, seems that we have a few problems here. Untitled exception. It's not so hard. Okay, have a look. Oh, I think maybe here if I specify the type of the map. Hopefully this fixes things. No, don't actually select the image. Okay, great, everything's working now. So I think what was happening was that because I used the final keyword, it was just using a generic map with no types for its input and output. And so that's why Flutter was giving me errors. So, well, there's an example of when you shouldn't use just final and keywords like final and bar, and you should just define the type of your object. Okay, but so all right, so this is working, and we have 7 minutes left. So in this time, I can take some questions, and yeah, don't worry, I'll have a look at why the server is not working after the workshop. So hopefully after the workshop, you can try rerun your code, and it should be working properly. Yep. Okay. If I have any questions, just feel free to ask in the chat. Otherwise, this is the end of the workshop.
So
Also, yeah, sorry. Actually, I forgot. Before I end, I also want to mention that if you want to have a look at how I set up the server on GCP and how I trained the machine learning model on there, so this is a great article that you can have a look at, and it's in the README of my GitHub. So it will include instructions for, you can pretty much follow this step by step. Includes instructions for how to set up the model and deploy it on the Google Cloud Platform. You will need to change the data that's used to train the model, and you can use this data set that I've included here. So this data set just contains bunch of, it's a zip file with a bunch of images of people wearing masks and people not wearing masks. So you can use that and follow that article to set up that server. And when you do have that set up, all you need to do is to replace this URL with your own server's URL, and you'll be good to go. And there's also a video on basically the first half of the workshop, or so if any of what I said was unclear, you can have a look at this video, or I think this workshop is recorded, so you can go back and watch the recording as well. But yeah, that's all I had to say. Sorry, I don't know if I cut you off last time.
No, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Does anyone have any other questions they want to ask? No, it doesn't seem like it. Okay, well, thank you guys for attending the workshop, and thank you so much, Andrew. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and really what Andrew has done here is really fantastic. He's taken essentially the ideas in app development and ideas in machine learning and essentially combined it into one, which is really cool. And this is something great you can do with Flutter and really anything out there. So definitely cool getting to try out Firebase, and really thank you so much for taking your time to host this workshop. And definitely, guys, check out the CISSA page as well, and the Facebook group, as well as their website. They host some really cool events throughout the semester as well. And definitely check out the GitHub, and yeah, have a great time, and check out our Facebook page as well. Check out our channel for regular videos, and we will post this recording onto YouTube as well. So once again, a very, very big thank you to Andrew. You did absolutely amazing today. You should be really proud of yourself, man.
Thanks, Anna, for the kind words. I also want to give a quick plug to the upcoming Cold Brew Hackathon that CISSA is holding. So this year will be health focused. So tackling problems with COVID, medicine, some other areas I can't remember. But it's a great place to sort of experiment with your new Flutter skills and hopefully your new machine learning skills as well. And really put a lot of what you learn into practice and win lots of great prizes as well. I think like top prize is like $2,000 or something. So it's a great competition. Would be lots of fun.
Yep, definitely check it out on the Facebook page or even the CISSA website as well. It is really cool. All right, but thank you everyone who attended this workshop, and if you are watching this video outside of the workshop time, thank you for watching, and hope you guys have had a great time. See you guys soon.
See you guys.
Do you guys have any other further questions? Doesn't seem like it. All right, well, thank you guys for joining. I think we'll start the Kahoot. I'm not sure if that is a Kahoot.
Oh yeah, the Kahoot.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm gonna.
Actually, if you want to share a screen.
Yeah. All right, I'm just gonna start the Kahoot, and I'll pop it up in 3, 2, 1. Sorry, I'm bad at counting. There we go. Now, I've had a problem with this before. Can you guys hear the music?
No. I don't think so.
No. Can you hear now?
Not really.
Yeah, it's to do with the. But the problem is when I shared computer sound last time, it got really loud. So I'll try that. Try that one more time.
I'll turn down my sound volume.
I'll probably reduce this volume a little bit, and then. Now is it okay? Awesome. By the way, there is a prize whoever comes first. I think it's I can't remember. Zakaria knows. It's a $25 gift card. For Google Play, I think. I'm not sure. Really? No one's playing? Oh, cool.
No one plays, I'll join in as well.
Could be a one-on-one. Could be a 1v1.
1v1.
One-on-one. Tabitha, are you not joining?
Alright, I'll go easy.
Let's wait 1 more minute. What if I join? I haven't seen the answer, so maybe. Hey, there we go. So let's get started. Must have an on-press property, and that can have nothing in it if you want.
Wait, why is there 4 people? Who's the fourth one?
I think the fourth one's me. I'm just.
Oh, wow, okay.
There's more than one answer. So it could be either void paint or should repaint. I've never actually seen paint before.
Paint, yeah. Oh, Optimus.
Why is it recommended that we use? And I just had a mid-semester test. I don't want another one of this.
Oh, nice.
Close competition.
Got this.
That's an equal distribution.
Yeah.
So to allow widgets to constrain as dimensions.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Oh, Optimus.
Right.
Oh,
My the leaderboard's changing like every second.
yeah. Still close, still close.
Still pretty close.
Mm.
Oh, this is an interesting one.
Oh. Throwing some curveballs in there. Oh, wow. Nearly everyone got it.
Yeah, custom painter is not a widget, but custom paint is.
Yes. Custom paint is needed for custom paint. Custom painter is needed for custom paint.
Yeah.
Wow, so close.
How about them with a 3 answer
Oh.
streak? That's cool.
Oh no, actually never mind. Yeah. First place is sizable beat. Oh. Nice.
How the tables turn.
Mm.
All right,
Might be a
last
bit harsh.
question.
Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. I don't think we actually.
These are some hard questions.
Yeah. I think this might depend on a few factors.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Could depend on. In
I feel
general,
like-
in general, probably not.
Yeah. Unless your phone has like no memory or something.
Oh, I did get that error once. I was playing around with custom paint, and I think I got that.
No.
Number 3, Andrew.
Is it 7 out of 10? Nice.
Great job, man. Congratulations.
Good job on the $25 gift card. What is the gift card for?
I'm gonna ask Sam. He announces it every single week, and completely forgotten. Like,
Okay. $25 and something.
$20 and something. That's good.
Something that's good, yeah.
I hope you guys all had a great time and really enjoyed the workshop. I really enjoyed it myself, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And oh, the sound still going?
Yeah. So good.
Should we just keep it on?
No,
Okay. How do I stop? Can you still hear it?
no, it's fine.
Oh, cool. It's just me then.
Yeah.
Okay. Hope you guys had a great time, and thank you so much, Andrew. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. The app, everything, man. Great job.
No problem. Thanks for everyone for coming.